unbelievable pain, you will be able to say, hey.
Part of the family, doesn't she? We have watched her on our screens since she was just a little toddler. But that's not the whole story. Behind the sunny disposition and all those wildlife adventures, Bindi was quietly fighting one of the most agonizing battles imaginable. And she just revealed it all, leaving the internet absolutely stunned. So for anyone who might need a little refresher, let's quickly set the scene. Because if you've somehow missed who Bindi Irwin is, well, first of all, welcome. And second, you're going to want to buckle up. Bindi Sue Irwin was born on July 24th, 1998, in Bindi, Queensland, Australia. She is the daughter of the late, legendary Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter himself, and Terry Irwin, who is an absolute force in wildlife conservation. And if you're curious about her name, Bindi Sue, Steve named her after his favorite crocodile at Australia Zoo, a croc named Bindi, and also his beloved dog Suey. That is such a classic Steve Irwin move, and honestly, we all adored him for it. Now, Bindi's childhood was anything but ordinary, and that was actually a wonderful thing. She literally grew up on the grounds of Australia Zoo in Beerwah, Queensland, surrounded by crocs, koalas, and every wild animal you could possibly imagine. She was homeschooled to better balance her education with zoo life and her many television commitments. And yes, she was on camera almost before she could properly walk. At just 8 years old, she launched her own wildlife documentary show called Bindi the Jungle Girl. It aired on Discovery Kids and was an instant sensation, and the show's success was just the beginning. Bindi actually won a Daytime Emmy Award for being an outstanding performer in children's programming, making her the youngest performer to ever win that award at that time. She was 9. Just think about that. Then in 2015, she competed on Dancing with the Stars in the US. And you guessed it, she won that competition too, taking home the UNBEARABLE trophy with her partner Derek Hough. She also starred in Crikey. It's the Irwins alongside her mom Terry and her brother Robert. And in 2024, she and Robert served as prize ambassadors. And today she is the actual CEO of Australia Zoo. A conservationist, an author, an Emmy winner, a reality TV champion, and also a CEO? Yeah. It is safe to say she's been incredibly busy her whole life. She married American wakeboarder Chandler Powell on March 20th, 2020, right at Australia Zoo. And on March 25th, 2021, they welcomed their beautiful daughter, Grace Warrior Irwin Powell. It was the kind of life that, from the outside, appeared to be pure joy and purpose. But that is the thing about what we see on the outside. So, what was really happening behind the scenes while Bindi was smiling for the cameras and wrangling crocodiles? A secret battle that nobody knew about. Okay, this is where the story gets really intense. I really want you to listen closely because this part of her incredible journey is so important. For over 10 years, an entire decade, Bindi Irwin was living with chronic, debilitating pain. Not the kind of pain you just shake off after a couple of painkillers and a nap. This was the kind of pain that makes it a struggle to function, a battle just to get out of bed. It makes it hard to feel like your own person, a pain that follows you around everywhere. It followed her to work, to family dinners, in front of the camera, and to bed each night. But the absolute worst part? She had no idea why. She called it indescribable, inescapable pain. She said she was tested for absolutely everything. Every tropical disease, Lyme disease, cancer, the list went on and on. Every blood test, every conceivable scan, and every single time she came up completely empty. There were just no answers. All she got was more confusion, more frustration, and more pain without any explanation. To make matters worse, her doctors kept dismissing her. They told her this agonizing pain was just part of being a woman. Yeah. Let that one marinate for just a second. After a full decade of suffering, the medical response was essentially, yep, that's just how things are. And she started to believe them. She began to believe that she was just weak. She later said that as a teenager and young woman, she felt incredibly frail and deeply insecure, like she was a prisoner in her own body. Can you even begin to imagine carrying that kind of burden? Being one of the most recognizable faces in all of Australian wildlife conservation, putting on a brave face for all the cameras, the many interviews, and public appearances, all while secretly feeling like your own body is betraying you, and you're thinking that absolutely nobody even believes you? And here's what makes this whole situation even more heartbreaking. Bindi wasn't someone who could just call in sick and quietly recover at home. This is a woman who actually runs a world-class zoo and films television programs. She gives public speeches, shows up for her family, her beloved animals, and her fans every single day. She had no other choice but to push forward, even when her body was screaming for her to stop. She did her best to keep it private. She simply didn't want to worry anyone. She pushed through, she kept on working, kept showing up, and kept being that Bindi Irwin for the world. But the reality was, she was completely crumbling on the inside. And for 10 whole years, she went through all of this without even having a name for what was wrong with her. No actual diagnosis, no path forward, no community of people who could understand. Just terrible pain dismissed over and over again as something to just deal with. That is a level of personal strength most of us will probably never fully comprehend. But it's also a staggering level of injustice that never should have occurred. So, when did she finally get her answers? And what did those answers actually end up revealing? The one diagnosis that changed absolutely everything. In March of 2023, Bindi Irwin went public on Instagram with a shocking announcement. She had finally been diagnosed with endometriosis. Now, if you are not at all familiar with endometriosis, let's break it down very quickly. Endometriosis is a medical condition where tissue similar to the uterus lining starts growing outside the uterus, on the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and even other organs. According to the official World Health Organization, approximately 119 million women all over the world are affected by endometriosis. That's a truly staggering number. And yet, for so many of them, getting a diagnosis takes an average of 7 to 10 years. 7 to 10 years. Sound familiar at all? Because that is almost precisely how long Bindi had been suffering in silence before anyone figured out what was truly wrong with her body. The condition itself causes severe pain, especially during menstrual cycles, and it can also dramatically affect fertility. And because the symptoms are so often brushed off as just normal period pain, millions of women go undiagnosed for years, exactly like Bindi did. They are sent home from the doctor, told to take ibuprofen, told to just push through it, and told that they're being overly dramatic. It is, quite honestly, one of the most common and infuriating systemic failures in women's modern healthcare. When she finally got her diagnosis and had that first surgery in early March 2023, doctors removed 34 separate endometriosis lesions. That is not a small number at all. But it was only the beginning. The crucial surgery was performed by Dr. Tamer Sekin, an endometriosis specialist at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City. And Bindi has been very candid about the fact that finding the right kind of doctor, a surgeon who performs what's known as excision surgery rather than ablation, made a world of difference. Her mother, Terry, even made a point to highlight that in the comments of Bindi's post, urging other women to look for excision surgeons specifically. So why does that specific distinction matter so much? Because ablation, the more widely used approach, essentially just burns the lesions from the surface, which can leave the roots behind, allowing them to grow back again. Excision, on the other hand, actually cuts out the lesions entirely, including the roots. It is a more complex surgery, but for many, it offers far superior long-term results. Bindi's willingness to explain all of that so publicly, that act alone has likely helped thousands of women ask the right questions at their next doctor's appointment. The public response to her 2023 news was immense. Women from every corner of the world flooded her comments, saying things like, "I believe you, this is my story too. Thank you so much for giving this pain a name." For so many of them, seeing someone as famous as Bindi finally confirm out loud that the pain is real, that it isn't just something to endure, was truly life-altering. But Bindi's complicated health journey was far from being over, because just when you think the story ends with a diagnosis and relief, things took an even more frightening turn. What happened after that? The shocking emergency surgery that no one saw coming. So this is where things get really, really intense. And honestly, it highlights just how serious endometriosis can become when it's not diagnosed early enough. While Bindi was continuing with her endometriosis treatment plan, She suddenly required emergency surgery while she was in the United States. During that one procedure, doctors discovered even more endometriosis lesions and also found that her appendix had to be removed, an appendectomy. On top of all that, she had a hernia repair from childbirth. Just think about that for a moment. One emergency surgery, an appendectomy, a hernia repair, and more lesions removed all at once. Her husband, Chandler Powell, described her as the strongest person I know after she had successfully come through it all. And frankly, that really feels like a major understatement. The most recent update, coming from her own Instagram post in late March 2026, was shared during Endometriosis Awareness Month, is that in total, over 50 endometriosis lesions have now been cut out of her body throughout her entire treatment. 50 lesions. Plus, a chocolate cyst that was literally gluing her ovary to her side. Plus the appendectomy. Plus the major hernia repair. Her exact words were, "I felt indescribable, inescapable pain." She also shared something so telling about the deep emotional toll of this experience. She spoke about a cyst so severe it was sticking her ovary to the very wall of her body, and she had been walking around, living her normal life, working at the zoo, and filming television, being a mom to Grace while her body was silently at war with itself, all while smiling for the photos, model, giving interviews, feeding crocodiles, and somehow, through all of that, she just kept on going. Not because she didn't feel the pain, but because she really had no choice. And she absolutely loves what she does. So what does all this mean for Bindi now? And how is she turning this incredibly painful chapter into a catalyst for change for so many other women? This is about Bindi's mission and the bigger picture. Here's the thing about Bindi Irwin. She has never been the kind of person to sit still when she could be doing something about it. That is simply not how she was raised, and it's definitely not how she is wired. She didn't just share her personal story and then move on. No, she turned it into a full-blown advocacy mission. She partnered up with the Endometriosis Foundation of America, EndoFound, and was honored at their Blossom Ball in May 2024, receiving the Blossom Award. She regularly speaks out about the condition, urging women not to give up on their search for answers, and is pushing for endometriosis to be taken seriously as a real medical issue, not just waved away as cramps or something women have to endure. In her March 2026 Instagram post, she wrote directly to anyone out there who might be suffering, saying, "If you're in pain, my heart breaks for you. I believe you. Please, find answers and don't give up on yourself. I know how hard that can be." Those 3 words, "I believe you," might seem so simple, but for women who have spent years being completely dismissed, being told their pain isn't real, being sent home time and again without answers, hearing that from someone with Bindi's platform is absolutely huge. It offers a validation that the medical system has repeatedly failed to give them for years. That message resonated in a truly massive way. The post received over 3,600 comments. Her fellow Dancing with the Stars professional Whitney Carson commented, calling Bindi incredibly brave. Her mom, Terry, wrote that she was so incredibly proud of her daughter for sharing her personal journey. Fans and fellow women with endometriosis poured in from all over, saying they had been told the exact same thing for years, that their pain was just part of being a woman, and that Bindi's honesty made them feel truly seen for the very first time. One commenter put it perfectly: "The number of women who are told, 'It's just part of being a woman,' is incredibly sad. Doctors and our education system need to do so much better." And Dr. Kathy Huang, the director of NYU Langone Health's Endometriosis Center, has been crystal clear on this very topic. The most important takeaway is simply this: pain is not normal. Bindi is now the living, breathing proof of that powerful message. She transformed from being one of those dismissed patients to one of the loudest, most credible voices out there telling other women, "You deserve answers." She is also continuing to carry on her father, Steve Irwin's, powerful legacy in all the other areas of her life as well, running Australia Zoo, doing vital conservation work, and raising Grace, and just generally being an absolute force of nature. Her brother, Robert, now 22, has also been very vocal about women's health being taken seriously, telling News, quote, "Women's health throughout history, and even now, is just under-discussed, and it's under-researched. We desperately need advocates to stand up and get the word out, and that includes both men and women. That quote from Robert is worth sitting with for a moment because it shows it's not just Bindi carrying this vital conversation alone. It is her entire family, and that's a big deal. When the men in someone's life, whether it's brothers, husbands, or fathers, start speaking up about women's health, it really changes the entire conversation in a meaningful way. This is a family that shows up for the animals, for the planet, and most clearly, for each other. So, after all of this, the decade of suffering, and all the multiple surgeries, the 50-plus lesions removed, where does Bindi actually stand today? And what does her transformation truly look like? The real transformation. When people talk about Bindi Irwin's so-called shocking transformation, some folks are just thinking about the physical stuff, how she has looked different at various points over all these years, the weight fluctuations that can often come with conditions like endometriosis, and the visible signs of a person who has been through a lot medically. And yes, all of that is very real. Endometriosis does genuinely affect the body in visible ways, like bloating, inflammation, and hormonal shifts. And it's okay to talk about that. But the true transformation here? It is so much deeper than anything you could possibly see in a photograph. The Bindi Irwin who stood before the world just a few weeks ago and said, "I was trapped in my own body," is not the same Bindi who spent 10 long years suffering in total silence and was constantly told she was just imagining it. But that Bindi, the one who felt so ashamed, weak, insecure, and totally unheard, is gone. She's been replaced by someone who stared a decade of pain in the face and said, "I didn't just survive this. I'm going to make sure other women never have to endure it." Now that is real growth. That's a type of strength that doesn't always resemble the perfect, glossy highlight reel that we're all so used to seeing on social media. She went from hiding an invisible illness in complete privacy, absolutely terrified of being seen as weak, to becoming one of the most powerful public voices in the whole endometriosis awareness movement. She went from being brushed off by doctors to confidently standing on stages, partnering with major medical organizations, and fighting for faster diagnoses and better treatments for millions of women all over the world. And she did all this while raising a child, while managing a huge zoo, and while upholding her father's incredible wildlife conservation legacy, all while healing from multiple major surgeries herself. That is no small feat. That is absolutely extraordinary. Her surgeon, Dr. Tamer Sekin, even highlighted her as a patient who underwent the full excision process, the specific approach he advocates for actually removing endometriosis lesions, not just burning their surface with ablation. And Bindi made a point to name him publicly, to guide people to his work, and direct fans toward the Endometriosis Foundation as a resource. She didn't just post her story and move on. She gave people a clear roadmap. Bindi also revealed that after 13 years of fighting for answers, she is finally healing. Finally, that word just means more when you realize what it took to get there. 13 years, more than 50 lesions, numerous surgeries, a whole decade without even a name for her pain, and now at last, healing. The conversation her vulnerability has ignited is much bigger than her. It's for every young girl who has ever been told she's being overly dramatic, every woman who's been in agony for years, shuffled between doctors with zero answers, for every mom who has watched her own daughter suffer and felt absolutely helpless. Bindi gave all of those people something truly priceless, a voice, and the validation that their pain is real and they deserve to be heard. That is a transformation worth discussing, and it's the real reason everyone is talking about Bindi Irwin right now. Not for drama, not for any controversy, but because she endured a decade of her own pain and shame and silence, and turned it all into something that could genuinely help other people. That is the kind of transformation that actually matters. Endometriosis impacts around 190 million women globally. 9 million of those women are in America alone, and the average time from the first symptoms to a diagnosis is still 7 to 10 years, which means right now, as you're watching this, millions of women are going through the exact same thing Bindi went through, being dismissed, left undiagnosed, living in pain, and simply told to deal with it. If that is you, or it's someone you love, please do not give up. Push for answers, find specialists, and look into the Endometriosis Foundation of America at endofound.org. And most importantly of all, Know that your pain is real and you deserve to be believed. So now, I really want to hear from you. Did you already know about Bindi's health journey before this? Just drop a comment below and let me know. And if this video helped open your eyes to endometriosis, please consider sharing it. Someone in your own life might really need to see this story. If you happen to be new here, hey, and welcome. Please make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. We cover real stories about real people and have real conversations right here, just like this one. I will see you in the next one.